Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Hummel Insurance Group for sponsoring today's show. Hummel Insurance Group now owns and operates 7 different offices located throughout the tri-state area. For over 50 years now, the Hummel Insurance Group has been assisting customers with insurance needs and questions. For all your insurance needs, contact Hummel Insurance Group at 812-537-1785. All right, guys. Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Rock Solid Radio. We have a fantastic show coming up for you today. Linda and I had the fantastic opportunity to get to meet Rachel Cruze and interview her for Rock Solid Radio. This show is so cool in the sense that Rachel Cruze is just a regular mom, even though she has a very famous dad, but she's just a regular mom and a wife, and she's trying to raise 3 kids. But in the meantime, also carrying her job and her mission at Ramsey Solutions. You have to listen to the show when you just hear the genuineness and authenticity in her about how she's trying to manage these different things. A lot of you moms out there will completely relate to her in terms of just the balance that she tries to hold. And she does that through grounding herself in what's really important. So I hope you'll listen to this show and just enjoy her genuineness and her personality. She's just very welcoming. So I hope you enjoy this and get a good chance to pick up a few tips on how you can manage your finances and also your parenting just a little bit better in 2022. Also, Rock Solid Radio would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and the Hummel Insurance Group for coming alongside of us and being sponsors in this particular Rock Solid Radio show. So thanks to all of you and your listeners, and do me a favor, listen to these shows and give us 5-star ratings and share them with all your friends. So enjoy the show. Welcome to a special episode of Rock Solid Radio. This is Merle Hutchinson, president of Rock Solid Families, and I am being joined by 2 very special women. I have to watch this. I feel like I'm being like ganged up on here. So first, Linda, how are you today?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
So this is actually our second show in the new year.
Yeah.
But we have a special guest today that we just cannot wait to get into discussion about. Okay. So our guest today is a person that most of you, I think, probably have had some connection with if you've ever dealt with money at all in terms of trying to get help. And so we would like to welcome our #1 New York Times bestselling author, speaker, financial expert, and now host of her own show, The Rachel Cruze Show. Rachel Cruze, thanks for joining Rock Solid Radio.
Absolutely, you guys. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited
Happy New Year.
well.
Yes, Happy New Year to you guys. Oh, I can't believe it's already 2022. It feels I feel like it's 2020 in my emotions.
Yeah.
God.
So everybody kept thinking how bad 2020 was, and then it felt like 2021 was not a whole lot better, was it?
Took us off guard, definitely.
Yeah. This
sure.
COVID thing just won't quite die, and it just keeps throwing itself up into us.
Yeah, but it's a new year, and we are
right.
so excited to have you help us kick off the new year, Rachel. So, let's get the elephant out of the room because, we grew up, I shouldn't say grew up, our early wedding and marriage days with Dave Ramsey, your dad. And he definitely...
I did not like him at all.
Some days I didn't either. I'll say that.
This one's the free spirit, I'm just going to say.
Yes.
And
awesome.
Definitely he made a difference in our lives. And so tell me a little bit about how it was growing up with Dave Ramsey as your dad.
Yeah, I get this question quite often, and it always kind of makes me laugh because I think some people just have this idea or picture in their mind of probably what it was like. And it was,
Right.
like, oh, you guys probably had mutual fund birthday parties growing up.
Right,
And like you had budget camps every summer. And thankfully that was not the case. I mean, mom and dad, they really, to their credit, did such a great job at, yes, teaching us about money for sure. But it was really in the ebb and flow of life. I mean, just kind of this,
Right.
I mean, just like we learned any other thing, any other area of life, money was just another one as well, which I know is a little bit unique. Some people, which I'm very aware of, never grew up talking about money. So we did, but it was not the obsessive number one subject that people probably assumed just because it was Dave Ramsey. So yeah. But
How old
yeah,
were
they
you?
did.
How old were you when you realized who your dad was?
You know, I don't know.
Or do you
It's
still
kind of
not
a
know
hard.
who he is?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, probably not, honestly. No. Yeah, it was a weird thing because we did grow up in the same area outside of Nashville. So a lot of the people that, I went to elementary school with and beyond were fairly the same people. I mean, obviously you have a new kid every now and then, but like
Right.
it was kind of that same little community. But at the time too, I did travel with him to live events when I was in high school. So I would be in these arenas, packed with 10,000 people there to see him. So I had
Right.
that in one part of my brain. But then you go back and you live life and then when I went to college, I feel like people, if they found out or something, it was like this big reaction. I was like, wait, it's not that big of a deal. So it's like,
Right.
it kind of all, it
Yeah.
didn't really
But
click, if that
obviously
makes sense.
something stuck because you do this now for a living yourself. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Ramsey Solutions. This is part of
Yes.
your work too.
Yeah, yes, it is. And it's something that I love. I think that I can look back. Priscilla Schreier, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. I did one of her Bible studies, Discerning the Voice of God. And she said in there, it was like week 1. And I was like, that feels like my life. She was like, I don't always realize that it was God speaking to me. But when I can look back, I can be 100% certain. And so I look back on just my work avenue of my life. And I look back that I was born the year they filed for bankruptcy. So a lot of mom and dad's pain out of money is what caused them to figure out the solutions of God's and grandma's ways of handling money. It came out of that painful story that I was at the front end of. So watching my story starting there. And then I mentioned that I traveled with him to live events in high school. And so I started doing some speaking at those. I would just pitch our kids' products before one of the big breaks there. And so I learned that public speaking I enjoyed. And then when I went to college, I realized, the need for this message was so deep and people needed it early. I was given the gift to learn, how money works early on. But as I'm talking to these 19, 20-year-olds that I was meeting at the University of Tennessee where I went, they already had student loan debt and they were signing up for credit cards and like all of this stuff that I knew I didn't have all the answers at 19 and 20 years old, but I knew like there's a different way. There's a different way. And that just kept nudging at my heart through college. So when I graduated from college, I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to pair this passion that I have for speaking that I really do enjoy in this message, but take it to another generation. So I spent the first probably 5 years really focusing on high school students and college students. And, I got married pretty young and then we started having kids. And so now 12 years later, my message definitely has evolved more to where I'm at. I mean, I'm a mom who works. Have 3 kids. I got a husband. We enjoy traveling, but we also have to do the grocery runs every Tuesday and my Costco runs. Like, you're in the trenches living this life out. And so what does that look like? So I'm able to really bring, I think, a lot of content from my experience day in and day out to help my listeners, whether it's on my show or the books I write. I kind of look at myself as the best friend that locks arms and we do life together, where dad is kind of the uncle that everyone has at Christmas that will just kind of tell you like it is.
Yeah.
So I kind of position myself a little bit more as the friend that walks with you through your money journey.
I think one of the cool things that you guys do, though, both in your work as well as your dad, and your dad kind of grabbed this early on. And we do marriage and family coaching. And we kind of sometimes say we kind of want to be the Dave Ramsey of marriage and family in the sense of, you guys are very practical. You don't speak over people's heads. You don't use terminology for the sake of impressing yourself. You go right into the trenches and you just use practical common sense stuff. And that's really, this money thing does not need to be complicated. This parenting thing does not need to be complicated. Money and parenting are 2 of the oldest things we've ever had to manage, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And so somehow we have found this way to really make it seem so challenging and difficult, and it just doesn't need to be. And so we appreciate you guys and your approach and not getting all heady on things, and instead just coming into the trenches and working with people. So thank you
for that. No, and I think, both aspects, I think you can say marriage, parenting, and money, there's so much shame and guilt around these subjects in life because you've messed up. You can see your mistakes, whether it's in your bank account with money or you're listening to your kid say something. You think, oh my gosh, how is this happening? What did I do? All of it can be right in front of you all the time. And so to just remove that for people and to say, man, no one's perfect. We're all going to screw up.
Right.
And so that shame and guilt, I think putting that away and giving people the hope that number one, like, you can change. You actually have the ability to make different decisions in your life that can create a different result. And that's such a beautiful thing. I mean, you can give that direction. We always say cookies on the bottom shelf. That's like our phrase we say here all the time. We're like, just cookies on the bottom shelf. Like, it doesn't, like you're saying, it does not have to be complicated and hard.
Amen.
But here's the path of what to do. So that's a fun part of my job. And I'm sure you guys experience on your end too, where you see, you get to have this progress with people that's so tangible. And it's so exciting because people get that hope where they think, man, I can't do this. This is too hard. And you're sitting there saying, no, you can, because I've seen people over and over and over and over do it. So that's a fun and very rewarding part of
But Rachel, you're a working mom and a working mom of 3 little ones. I mean, 6 on down. And so what do you say to those working moms out there? Because I work with them a lot and they're stressed out. They're overwhelmed. And so what do you say to them who are listening and trying to balance all this? What do you say to them?
Yes. I mean, I think it's very hard. So I would say yes. The empathy is all there with me. And I think different seasons I've learned, as much as I have with only 6 years of parenting, different seasons bring different things and times. And so, for me personally, after our 2-year-old son, Charles, was born, he was born in October of 19. So COVID all hit, when he was about 6 months. And so everything just kind of went up. And so ever since then, it was kind of this, I think a lot of people kind of had different revelations through COVID because you're home and you're like, man, what's going on? I realized in this time, like, he'll start preschool and I can kind of map out my kids and their tangible day or time during the day. And I just know like this time with him home is so short. It is so short. And so I know not everyone has this ability by any means, but I have chosen though to pull back some from work for a season. Again, it's not gonna be forever, but just for this time period, because I think as moms, I can look and think, okay, if I'm making a decision in my head, it's like the decision till they're 18. I like have this, I just jump these like quantum leaps of time. And I have to tell myself, Rachel, look at what's good for you in this 6 months or in this 12 months or this 2-year season. So I would say that. And again, I know not everyone has that option to pull back if they feel like they wanted to, but if there's things you can do, AKA money, be able to get yourself out of debt and free up, the ability to say, hey, what if we did cut back a little bit on income if I wanted, to at least give you the option to look at that. And then number 2, my husband and I, we've really, and again, we have young kids, so I think it may change and ebb and flow, but we really try not to put a lot on our plate. And so, even with sports, I'm like, we signed her up for soccer at the little YMCA down the street. And I'm like, and that's about all we're going to do. There was a neighbor and their 6-year-old was going to go do a little travel within a 45-minute radius. And we were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. No. So we just have told ourselves like, no, we're going to kind of make it a family unit that we don't bring in a lot of distractions within that, if that makes sense. And so that helps put pressure. But I'll tell you, like, you feel the pressure. You're like, gosh, they need to have something with music going on. They need to have sports. They need, school doesn't need to fall. You put yourself in all of that. And I'm like, you know what? Forget all that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And so kind of making what's best for you and your family in that season again, I think. Well, y'all are the experts. You tell me.
Well, the book that you wrote, Love Your Life, Not Theirs, is a huge part of that. I think that there's such a comparison trap going on with our young moms that they're looking on Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest and what their life's supposed to look like. And man, that just runs you ragged and you can't live like that. And so I appreciate the messages that you're sharing of, you know what, let's not compare ourselves to the Joneses because it's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah. And you can. And I think you can easily look at, one mom, you're like, man, she has it all together. And I'm like, yeah, because she pays for a grocery delivery service, which isn't bad, but she's not, she's doing that. She has someone cleaning her, she has help as well. So I just don't want people to think, man, everyone has it together and I'm the only one that doesn't, because that's not true at all. And so you have to take in all those factors and that everyone is so different. And so putting the blinders on, not just on your lifestyle, but also with your family to say, hey, this is what's best for us. And we're not going to be pulled into this thing that just because everyone else is doing it, that we're going to go and do it. Like, we really are going to figure out what's best for our family. And so we've really tried to set that boundaries, Winston and I, because it's important, because you have 24 hours in a day, right? And so you're like, how do we best manage this for our kids? And so that's big. And then I'll add one more thing too that I'm so bad at, but just putting your phone away. Like, it's amazing not having a distraction from email, social media, all of it, and actually being present with the kids.
Right.
That helps me as a mom too. And if it's long seasons of work that I'm doing, if I'm launching a book, or I'm in the office every day for that week or whatever it is, I'm like, the times I actually have with them to actually look in their eyes and talk to them and be with them. We just have so many distractions today.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Rachel, as we work with the marriage and family group, our deal frequently is recognizing how much the world is shaping your definition and a vision of what it should all look like. And how, it's only through our Christian faith that we recognize how out of whack we've allowed that to get. And, you're so of the world, you don't even know how of the world you are. The idea that it's okay to have your kids signed up in 50 different sports and activities, and because that's what they need. Otherwise, they're not going to be pro at something, right? And that we buy into that. But we also, on your side of things, how do you see we as a generation allowing the world to define how we should figure money and work money? How do you see the world, the advertisements? What do you see, the thing that we buy hook, line, and sinker, and it is just a lie?
Yes. Oh gosh. I mean, I think there's like the age old lie, but I just feel it so much because I think there are so many avenues that bring this message. It's just the idea that bigger and better and more is going to fix it. Like, I need a newer car. I need more of this. I need that, or it's this, and this, whether it's clothes, I mean, anything, right? And we think that whether it's experiences like vacations or an actual item, that these things are going to fix our souls and who we are.
Right.
And it's just not true. My husband and I, we built a house. We had like this 6-year goal to build a home. And so we moved in, and it was 2 years ago. So it's been about 2 years. But I remember probably a month or two before we moved in, we were in our kitchen of our old house. And I looked at him over the counter and I was like, I'm so ready for my new kitchen. I just want to be in the new kitchen.
Right.
And everyone Winston looked at me. He was like, babe, the same issues in this kitchen are going to be in the new kitchen. Like, there's still going to be applesauce all over the floor.
Yeah.
We're still going to be having this issue that we're trying to figure out. Like, it doesn't fix it. And does it make it prettier for a split 0.5 seconds?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you're still the same person. And so the idea that if I could just have more and everything's going to be fixed is a lie. It's a complete lie. And I think that it's drug us into a world of consumerism and buying and more and more and more and more and more. We're kind of picking on the sports analogy in this, but seriously, okay, if they just can get into more stuff, my kid's going to be a better, well-rounded kid. And I'm like, no, it's probably the character of who they are. That's probably going to end up doing that, not necessarily the external activity. So the same is true with our purchasing and our money. And what becomes dangerous too is there's a convenience to money now that wasn't there even 10 years ago, whether it's online shopping. I just saw the new, a lot of the debit cards now and credit cards, you don't even swipe or chip in, you just wave. So it's like any type of friction, I can double click on my phone. We ordered pizza last night. And I literally double clicked on my phone because I have the app and it shows up at my house. I'm like, this is insane. And so you just have these conveniences that are great. I mean, I use them, but you have to watch it because the emotional tie to what cash used to be is gone now. And so the strength and the discernment before you actually double tap on your phone to spend, even if it's 15, 20 bucks, it's still 15 or 20 bucks, like just to be aware of it. So there's that technology piece that plays a big part in consumer spending today.
Yeah. I'll never forget, years ago, we did financial peace, and we did it when we were trying to sell our house and build a house. And by God's grace, our house didn't sell. And so it took 2 years for us to sell our house. But in the meantime, we went and did financial peace. And I really credit that to how we really built a different home. We built a different home according to the Ramsey plan financial peace plan versus what if we had gotten that money in our hands and built a house, it would have been looking a lot different. And so, I was very thankful. It was very frustrating. You're laughing at me because it wasn't a fun 2 years.
No, what was so funny, Rachel, was we were going to start that training on a Saturday at our church. And on that Friday night, I said, let's go and we're going to go shopping because this is our last chance to buy whatever we want before we feel guilty.
But it was definitely life-changing for us, and also how we parented our sons, and how we matched the car fund, and those were things that we continue to do in all 5 of our children. And so we want to continue to live that because we believe that's a legacy we give our kids that goes a long way after we're gone. Right. So what do you recommend for those young families in a healthy direction concerning money? What would be some baby steps that you would recommend, as we begin this new year? What would be some things that you would encourage our young families to try?
Yes, I love that. On the tactical side, when it comes to money, even as adults, really, there's those 3 things you can do with money. You can give it, you can save it, you can spend it. And so, as adults, obviously, it can get a little bit more complicated than just that. But those are really the 3 big buckets. And so teaching your kids those 3 aspects as early as possible, I think is such a gift. And part of that is just, even if it's something small. And so the idea of letting them earn money is a big part of that, the working so that they can give, save, and spend. And so, again, very age appropriate, but you can even start around 3, 4, 5 years old just to say, hey, you pick up a couple of these things and mommy will too. And, you just start so small when they're really young. And then as they get older, they can take on more responsibility. But earning their own money, I think, is one of the best things that they can do, because when they just assume, oh yeah, it's going to be in the checking account, or mom and dad are just going to hand me money when I leave the house, that's not the case. And so actually them earning money. And what's funny too, is it's shifted even our 6-year-old when we go to work, she's like, Mom, you're going to make money to help people, right? And I was like, yes, that's it. Yep. So they attach this idea that money comes from work. And then those 3 things, giving, saving, and spending. And what a fun experience to do with your kids, especially the small ones. I think it's so fun because
we have our envelopes still, and we have teenagers.
Yes.
So something that we, love to help parents with in that realm when we do talk finances is, kids, whenever you run into parents, especially when they get in the junior high and high school settings, you will see kids run up to their parents and say, hey, can you give me 10? Can you give me 20? And parents don't even think twice about it. They go, I guess I'm just an ATM, and they pull out their wallet and they start throwing money. And we started basically from Dave's work, that idea of, again, there's different ways to go about this, but just giving our kids their age and allowance. So if they're 10 years old, they get $10, but they get it every week. And of course they have things that they do around the house, but they never ask us for money. Like that's off. There's no asking for money, because they have to learn to manage it. So if they want to go to the amusement park with their friends, the answer, providing we can make it work, we say yes, but do you have the money?
Right.
And if they haven't been saving it, there's no asking us. And it really, we don't ever fight that. We never, our kids do not ask us for money, because and they've sometimes been in debt. We did catch them borrowing from each other. Like they started a little inter-house.
We may have done that 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny to see how they learn to manage it when they see that this is how it works, and we're not going to just be an ATM machine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for parents, I'm like, there's such this beauty of when you start instilling those kind of principles, and they start to kind of know the boundaries of what it is, and they actually have the feeling of, this is what it feels like to give. This is what it feels like to save for something and actually buy it. Here's the freedom of spending. Once you establish that, then I like to say too, it doesn't have to be a legalistic system as well, right? There's a lot of grace, and too much grace, I think, can be enabling in the financial world. And then too many rules. I was talking to a mom, and she was like, yeah, well, my son wanted to buy a PlayStation game, and he didn't have $1.39 left at the save. And I told him, nope, we're leaving the store. And I was like, oh my gosh, lady, he saved like $30. And he was like 9 years old. I was like, that's pretty good. There's some grace element in it as well. But man, when you can establish a foundation of a boundary that they know what is good and what is not, in this realm. Like
Right.
it's such a beautiful thing. And for your
It
kids,
is.
and they know it, like it just continues to magnify in their life. So when they're out at 25,
Mhm.
it's just a part of who they are. And I think,
Right.
I'm a testament of that to say I'm a spender. I'm a natural spender. I'm the free spirit, actually.
Amen.
I know we have the fun. But even with that, where I'm not necessarily the big rule follower and all of this, I'm a little bit more, we can kind of figure it out. Even then, I didn't have this temptation to like go get a credit card. Everyone's like, did you just want to go into debt? And I was like,
No.
not really, because I think all I've known is
Mhm.
this way of living with money and it works. And so
Right.
for me to go against it, I don't even want, like, there's not even a want to. So
Yeah.
it's amazing when it just becomes a part of who they are and it's their habit with
Hmm.
money. That's the gift as well
Right.
that goes generationally.
Yeah. And we have children ages 30 to 13. And so our 30-year-old and our 27-year-old are married, working, and completely financially independent. And they did that since they were left for college because of the Dave Ramsey financial peace plan.
Awesome.
So it works.
Yeah.
It works. And they don't come back in and looking for a free ride and wanting to eat chips and salsa in our basement and live
Yeah.
off of us, mom and dad. No. And
Yes.
because of that principle, they are very successful,
Well,
healthy adults.
Rachel, you see it from your side of what you're working with younger families. We actually work with the broken family when they're older. And, it's no longer a joke with the failure to launch situation when
Yeah.
you have a lot of kids excited to get out of the house when they're 18, 19, 20, and they get out and they fall apart financially or otherwise, and then
Yeah.
they're back. And the next thing you know, they're 25, 26, 27, and they're still in mommy and daddy's bed or a bedroom or basement or wherever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just gets complicated. And the parents then come to us and go,
Yeah.
what is wrong with them? It's
Yeah.
like, you created this.
Mhm.
And so doing, you as a young mom now speaking to the younger parents to say, now is when you keep that failure to launch thing, you put that at bay at the young ages, not when they're 25.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think too, when you play it out like that, there's a dignity level. And I get calls even on the Ramsey show, right? Of the same thing. I
Right.
get the 25-year-old. It's like, I want to leave, but do I save the rent and stay at
Yeah.
mom and dad's house?
Yeah.
What do I do? Try, all
Right.
this. And like, oh, there's a dignity piece there
Yes.
that when you're on your own and you're able to do it, again, I think there's a percentage there of grace that if there's a seed of something
Yeah.
helping mom and dad are always
Right.
there. But I'm
Tragedy.
talking to the majority that are like, no, you can
Yeah.
go out and get a job. You
Mhm.
can go and do these things. What it does, I just think for your self-esteem as a young adult, there's just something about it that really gives you kind of this edge of like, okay, I have to problem solve and figure it out. And you do that over the course of time and it gives you that dignity piece. And so I think
Yes.
that's one thing that as a parent you can strip from your kids that you don't even realize you are, but man,
Mhm.
when
Because
you
we
kind
do
of
for them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so making them do on their own, I think is
Yeah.
is
One
a
of
huge gift.
one of my favorite lines I tell parents all the time is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because
Yes.
if you have the financial awareness or availability, doesn't mean you should just give to them. Because you're not helping, you're enabling them and really
Yes.
crippling them into that independence and that success. So,
And you know what, Linda, it's so interesting. My 6-year-old, this was a few months ago, but it was like this like in my face parenting moment where I thought, what have I done, Winston? Is she said back something broke, a jewelry thing popped off and it was a bracelet. So all these beads like went everywhere. And I was like, oh no. And she was like, Mom, I was like, it's okay. It's okay. So we're cleaning it up. She goes, it's okay, Mom. We can just order another one from Amazon.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I was like, where have you heard that? She's like, well, that's usually what you say. I was like, I do? Like, I was like, do it really? Because, it's a $4 thing, or you can pay $20 and get a million of them, like these things can be so almost inexpensive that it's a Band-Aid and it's more convenient. It's easier because you
Right.
are in the grind of life just to be like, oh yeah, we'll just get it. Don't worry. Versus sitting there and having to be sad with the 6-year-old that, I'm so sorry your bracelet broke. And you did that because you were frustrated and you're the one that pulled it apart. And so now this is the consequence of the
Yes.
choice. And I'm so sorry that happens, but we're going to have to sit in an
This is-
Amazon, can't be the savior of the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Just because
apparently
you
I've done
could.
that to my kids.
Yeah.
So I've had to watch that.
Well, again, yeah, it's
We all
part of
have.
it's part of the real life thing, right? Like we talk all the time about the struggles and challenges that we have having 5 kids ourselves and doing marriage stuff. We joked before about the number of times that we've gotten into a little disagreement or even argument before we've recorded a show. It's like because we're doing real life,
Yeah.
right? And you have your personalities and your emotions and all these things come into play. But I think having it grounded and founded in something that is you can be consistent on, right? Like, okay, listen, I kind of lost my mind there for a second, but I know what home base looks like. And teaching our kids that about money, like, okay, what's the bottom line, how we're going to handle it? And speak for a second, Rachel, if you can, about how do we teach our kids how powerful the emotions of money are? Because, right, like your daughter could feel good in a second when she knew that she could get that bracelet like right now. So the emotional pull, like our kids are at that teenage year now, our younger one, and they get excited about the new pair of shoes. And the next thing you know, you can see the emotions well up in them. Like they not just need the shoes, they need them now. They need them now. And you're like, all of a sudden you can see, whoa, this is a powerful emotional storm and you can tell because if you say no right now, I mean, they go into teenage meltdown mode.
Yes. Oh, the instant gratification is pretty unbelievable. Today. Yeah. And I think that I think teaching our kids that aspect is such a crucial one too, because money plays in to those emotions so deeply. And so I think to be able to say, hey, you're excited about the new pair of shoes or the bracelet or whatever it is. And that, and that's not, things aren't bad. Things themselves they're not evil. But they're not going to give you the long-term sustainability that you're looking for or that you get in the moment. Because anytime you spend money or you get something new, scientifically, we know there's a dopamine hit within your body, psychologically, you can watch different hormones and you can watch the way the brain connects. I mean, there is a literal physical excitement and physiologically there's a change that's happening. And so to say like that, it is, there's an excitement to it and that's great, but you're going to still be the same person with or without those shoes. You're still going to be the same. And so we always tell our kids that they're like, we got a minivan. Yes, we did. The Cruze's our minivan.
Oh, how embarrassing.
After the 3rd, we did it. And our 4-year-old.
Was Winston okay with that? Should I ask?
You know what? He was actually pro minivan more than I was. I was the one that had to be talked into it. Yeah. I know. But now that I have it, I love it. But we had it for about 6 months and our then 3-year-old had a Sharpie in the front seats. And I walked out and I was like, so I'm sitting there, I'm trying to figure out, I'm Googling, like, is it rubbing alcohol? Like what gets something out of leather that's not going to ruin the leather, but I got to get it out quick. I the Mr. Eraser thing, all of it. And I looked at her, I said, Caroline, mommy is not frustrated because you drew on this. Mommy is frustrated because mom and dad go to work. We go to work and we make money to buy things and nice things like this van. And so when we draw on things, it feels like our work is not, being accomplished and it's not being appreciated. I'm trying to teach her this lesson. And she just looked up at me and she was like, can I have a snack? I was like, yeah, I know. But I have to remind myself that I'm like, who I am, again, even though it's very frustrating, there was Sharpie on the new van seats, all of that. But with the van, without the van, with the house, without the house, with the vacation, without, with this stuff, it does not define who we are. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to teach even, our kids at this point. I'm like, this stuff is really fun. But mommy and daddy, we love each other even if the stuff wasn't there. We would still love you even if the stuff is there. And that would be the same with, I would think, grades, how they do play in the little soccer league at the YMCA, whether they do good or not. Like all these things are not dependent upon who we are, how God sees us and views us, how we are as a family, all of that. But it does play into it. So that's something that's kind of been rattling around in my head as well. But I think as just adults, for us to recognize, hey, what's that fear that keeps coming up? Is that really about money or is it about security? And I don't feel secure with where we are. Is it really about because you need a new shirt, or is it because you're bored and you're medicating? Is it, like asking yourself these questions, especially around spending, is a big one. And I think, even for me, COVID, there were a couple of moments early on, May, June of 2020, that I thought, what's going to happen? Like, what if everything falls out and the market crash? We have no retirement anymore, and we have to live off of our backyard and farm ourselves. Like what starts to happen to our life if this goes down the drain? And it kind of just takes you back that money can be a false security so easy for us. And there's a healthy security there, that we teach, no debt and having an emergency fund and funding retirement. Like, there's a wisdom to that. But when it becomes so heavy on it, it still is something that can be shaken. And I think that's why the faith aspect of life is so crucial through it as well.
Yeah.
Because the contentment piece and all of that, I think, plays into it.
Yeah.
It's been kind of interesting. Like, we talk about a lot when we're dealing with folks with abundancy mindsets and deficit or scarcity mindsets, and really been interesting. And it's a shame that it takes tragedy or bankruptcy, like in your dad's case, or death or divorce, but it takes those things. And when you see like the house gets hit by the tornado, all right, there's a couple different ways that you can go through that. One, you can come in, and this is somebody who's dealing with the deficit, like I don't have enough, it'll never be the same, and they come in and they're blown apart, and that, like, life will never be as it was. And then you have others that quickly get boiled down to their core, and they go, you know what, we've lost everything, but we still have our family, or we still have, our health, kids, we still have our health. And so right away, they focus on what they do have. Whereas, and the other, when before the tornado, they were always looking at what they didn't have. Right. And so these kind of things really grab us emotionally. And, it's like, hey, I want to point this out to our kids when they're young. Look at what you do have. All right.
Absolutely.
And that's your new book, Know Yourself, Know Your Money. I mean, it's all about the mindset and really what you come into, your spending with, just your background, your personality, so those are things that are really important. You need to kind of analyze, like, why do I spend what I do? What's my motivation? Is money to me security? Is it status or whatever? And so I appreciate the work that you guys have been doing, and your dad and Ramsey Solutions. And, we probably need to wrap up. I know you've got a lot going on here, but we are so thankful the messages, the consistent messages that you guys continue to speak about, the fact that, our faith and our family and our future cannot be built on money you don't have. It's sinking sand. And that, Rock Solid Families is all about the fact that we're building our family and our future and our faith on something that is unshakable. And I know that that's a core of what you guys do too.
I love that. That's such a good picture, because it's the truth. I'm like, when you can have that solid foundation, that's what you build upon. And when you don't, and whether it's messages from the world or a toxic other place in your life, all of that, right? It starts to meddle with that. And so there is a power and a strength to that solid foundation. So I love that. Well, thank you guys, Meryl and Linda, both for having me on. It was such a pleasure and such a fun conversation. So thank you.
Yeah. So is there anything on the forefront here with Rachel Cruze? Anything that we need to keep our eyes open for? Any books or shows or anything that you would like to get a little bit of publicity on?
Oh, well, thank you. Well, the book, Know Yourself, Know Your Money, it's been out. It'll be a year this January, which is just crazy. So it's been right at a year. But that was a fun book to write. Yeah. Getting under and understanding why we handle money the way we do, not just the what aspect. So that's always a very fun conversation. And then, the Rachel Cruze Show, we put out episodes multiple times a week. And so just trying to help people through this crazy life and how to navigate the money conversations and the money principles, and hopefully giving hope to a lot of people. So thank you.
So what website or place can they go to get all of your information, and even your dad's and all that? Where can they go?
Yes, you can go to rachelcruze.com or ramseysolutions.com. So
Okay.
it's all there.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Rachel, thank you so much for just being a part of Rock Solid Radio and with us today as we launch 2022. We're praying for a better year for families, praying for you and your family and all the work that you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you guys so much. And thanks for all the work you're doing. I think having people in other people's corner, like you all who've gone through it and done this and be able to speak into other families. I mean, it's the wisdom that I know you all give, and countless others that are out there mentoring families. I think it's just a huge part of this next generation and being able to sustain. So thank you guys for your work. It's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Again, so we want to thank all of our listeners out there for just continuing to be part of the Rock Solid Radio viewers and listeners. And so we ask that you guys just continue to listen to our shows and to share our shows. We'd love to get guests like Rachel and have these kind of conversations. I like the way you said that, Rachel, that we have to be in people's corners, right? We all have to be there. We're supporting something, and we need to know that we're all tied together through God's word and his way. So we just want to thank our listeners for that. So, let's just go ahead and sign off, hon, and we'll wrap this up.
So thanks for being a part of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.